Okay, so most people make the joke about friction fire as rubbing two sticks together. So I just wanted to do a quick video to show you different parts to a bow drill kit. So the first is going to be your base board. This is going to be made out of a softwood. The second piece is going to be your spindle. This is also going to be a softwood. The next piece is your bow. So this is generally a hardwood, and then you're going to have a type of string. So this is buckskin. And then the last piece is going to be a handhold, which again is a hardwood, generally a hardwood. So this is your basic bow drill setup. So this is your basic bow drill setup. In this video, I'm going to share with you a little bit about the essence of every single piece, so that wherever you are in the world, whatever landscape you're on, whatever materials you have access to, you can make a bow drill kit. So we're going to start from the bottom, which is your baseboard. So this is going to be a softwood. This board in particular is made from cedar, and when looking for softwoods, you want the grains to run in a specific direction, and also looking at the distance between the grains. So in this piece right here, you'll see that the grain of the wood is thicker on this side and thinner on, or sorry, the grain is thicker on this side and thinner on this side. So where the grain is more tight together, that's gonna make a harder wood, of course. So again, the property would be that this, or the idea would be that this side would be a little bit more harder than a softer, weaker wood. So looking for a softwood, generally people work with a good length of a board, and the thickness will dictate how coals coals you can get. So of course you can, have a really thick board or a very thin board. If you have a thin board, you'll go through it very quickly, which means you'll have to make multiple notches more frequently. The next piece is your spindle. So again, this is a softwood. The grain is running vertically down the spindle itself. There's so many different shapes and sizes that you can play around with. This is going to be definitely something that your style develops as you work with your bow drill kit. Generally speaking, to start, a longer spindle and a thicker spindle is going to give you more surface area and more grip to work at when you're developing your technique and you might not be as efficient. This is a really old spindle, so you can tell it's a little nub, still totally usable but small, so it's going to be more challenging. And when you start learning bow drill, you want to put everything in your favor to at least get your first coal and then develop technique over time. Thinner spindles are great as well. And then just working with the tips that are carved in different ways, which we'll talk about later. The next piece is the handhold. So this is the piece that's going to go above the spindle. So again, there are so many options here. My favorite handhold, and I've used this for years once I found it, was this smooth river rock that I found on the West Coast. And it had the perfect hold. So I did not make this hole in this rock, in this stone, and I use this all the time. It fits nicely in my palm. So before I found this stone, I was using this, again, it's a piece of hardwood, so you want hardwood for the handhold. And again, I shaped it so it was comfortable to my palm, but everyone again is going to have their own shape, so just play around with what works for your body. Other options are also antler or deer bone, especially deer kneecap joints. But again, what you're looking for when you're looking for a handhold is something very hard, something that fits comfortably in your palm, and yeah, something that has a notch or a hole. So that could be something that you create yourself, like in this piece of hardwood, or something, or a hole that occurs naturally. The last piece is the bow itself. So this is one of many of my bows that I have used. What you're looking for is a piece of generally hardwood that is green. Oftentimes people will put a little bit of a bend, so the bend doesn't have to be big, but you do want, again, it's called bow drill, so this is your bow shape, so that the cord, when it's flexed, is not going to be smacking on the piece of wood. But you can see in this bow that the curve is not massive, so again, there's so many different shapes that do work. Generally people will either make their bow the length of their arm or shorter. What I was taught is that the longer your bow, again, the easier it's going to be, so you have more length to get a longer rotation on the spindle per stroke on the bow drill kit. And the way that I love to notch the top and bottom of my bow, so this is very simple. You're looking for a stick with a Y. So then I just make a knot at the top with whatever cordage I'm using. And then the bottom, you use a knife and you split it down the center. And then you can kind of see here how I've knotted up the bottom cord. But we're not actually using knots. We're just using tension to hold these shapes. So this top piece is going to be fixed throughout the entire life of my bow drill, but this bottom piece with the slice is what I would adjust when the cord gets loose. And yeah, the last thing I wanted to talk about is the string itself. So this is my favorite cordage for bow drill. This is buckskin. So for many reasons, buckskin lasts such a long time. It is quite grippy just in its nature. But the biggest reason why I love using this type of cordage as a natural form is the lifespan of the cordage and the flexibility. So prior to using buckskin, the cord that I started with was, this is dog bane. So this is I reverse wrap this cordage myself, and then there's beeswax on the outside to make it a little bit thicker and keep the fibers together. This is really great as an option for cordage, but the issue here is that plant fibers, if they rub continuously, especially when you're starting to learn, so this takes a lot of effort to make cordage, and then while you use your bow drill kit and you're learning and it rubs and then the fibers start to thin out, then they snap, and then you're left with a small piece that you either have to shorten your bow or make again. But I don't want to say that plant fiber is not a great option for cordage if you don't have access to buckskin or deerskin. And the last piece for cordage, especially if it's your first bow drill kit, and buckskin or reverse wrap plant matter is kind of maybe a skill you'll learn down the line. You can totally start with paracord, so, or even your shoelace, any, plastic processed cord. I would just say the downside is that oftentimes they're very slippery, so they'll last super long, which is great, so you don't have to worry about the rubbing on the cord, but they're very slippery materials, so it will bring its own challenge. But that's the basic essence of the different pieces of the bow drill kit, and so really just starting somewhere. Find pieces, even if they're not perfect, even if you don't get a call right away, you need to start somewhere to start learning the essence and the value of choosing different materials to work and enhance your chances of getting a call.